Let's bring up Chad, dude. This guy's
What?
awesome. Yeah. Chad Mitchell, welcome to Total Disruption, dude.
Hey guys.
Biggest stage of your life right here, right now, buddy. We are so excited
Exactly.
to have you here, man. You're a disruptor. You're an amazing guy with an amazing message. And just like everybody else, we love you and we're so glad you're here. I'm going to fade out. I'm going to let Jake do his thing, and you guys have a good time.
I get to kick Mike out this time. It feels really good. It is. It's just, you just get power hungry. Chad, how are you today, man? You're looking amazing as always.
I fixed my hair today. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and the reason to. I believe that business owners in America will make Total Disruption business battleground an institution, and this is where they will go to train before they go to Shark Tank to get their big offer. This place is really a godsend for a struggling entrepreneur. You're a lonely person when you're out doing your own thing, and to find and stumble across a thing like this, it's going to help out a lot of people.
No, 100%, man. So let 100. Yeah, Mark, absolutely. He understands the financial side of a business like nobody that I know. Chad and I've been fortunate to have a bunch of conversations with Chad, and like the passion about what Chad does. You want to talk about the really being entertained to be entertaining. Like he loves what he does. He is just in it. It's so good. So, all right, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Chad. Chad is a funding consultant for business owners and real estate investors and a wealth building strategist for self-employed individuals. You can tell I'm reading off of this because no, I did not memorize it, but it's really good. In a former life, I love the way he states that. In a former life, Chad worked TV production for studios, including E! Entertainment and Warner Brothers. Over the last 2 decades, he's gone from putting apartments or house projects together and creating small businesses together, including a vodka label, to becoming a funding strategist and wealth building strategist, which is totally true. And Chad is helping. He's in a business piece with one of our battleground contestants, helping him raise what $1.2 million, as I recall, is what the number is to get a certain thing done. So the ability to touch some of those. So Chad, what's the knowledge you want to drop today for everybody?
Well, for the contestants on the show, I haven't had the opportunity to visit with yet. You'll meet me soon. My part is called the Race to Revenue, and the aim is to make the most with the least in the shortest amount of time. So basically, it all centers around how much is your business worth? And that's not a trick question. Most times, business owners can't give you that number or don't even know how to calculate it. Do you know what your profit margin is? How much profit do you have to continually pump into the machine each month to make that happen again next month? And many business owners, they just don't keep up with these things because they're too tedious, and it's costing them money and it's limiting them. So that's kind of what I'm about. As entrepreneurs, nobody's the boss of you, right? Like we all know that, except our customers and sometimes our employees and other times our equity partners or shareholders, right? So you have to govern yourself, and that's why you need to keep track of your numbers, all right? You ever wonder where all the money goes at the end of the month? You want to know how much you make per hour? Probably not. I'll give you the success tracker to help answer all those questions on your own journey. If you guys want to drop a revenue in the DMs below, we'll send that out to you guys at the end of the show. But I'd like to start talking to you guys about how you can really transform your businesses into a life-altering way to just walk through life. A little bit later, I'd like to share how I got started doing this actually first, because it illustrates the reason why I'm doing it. My grandmother, her name was Daisy Lee, She had a small neighborhood grocery store in South Dallas, which, if you're familiar with the DFW area, it's the hood. Uh, I'm not sure why she chose that neighborhood, but if you knew my grandmother, she was a very tough broad. She's really headstrong. She was from New Orleans. She had to flee an abusive relationship with my never met grandfather, and she ended up moving to Dallas in 1954 by herself with a 4-year-old, my dad, and a 2-year-old son, my uncle. You know, just take that into context in today's terms. Even if you have a 23-year-old daughter and she says she's going to move with 2 kids 1,000 miles away, you're probably going to be like, what? And you had a cell phone to call her. Back then, there's no cell phones. You got 2 kids by yourself. And, you know, back then, women were supposed to know their place, right? So just that kind of person that would do that, you can kind of real grit. And growing up, she always held me to a way tougher standard than all the other grandkids. She would actually kind of make fun of me if I ever pussed out. But she used to tell me I need to either be a doctor or a mortician because everybody gets sick and dies. She definitely understood supply and demand in that aspect. But she also told me I was going to be a politician, which I don't really know where that might have came from. I don't really think anyone would ever vote for me, more polarizing than Trump. But I got my entrepreneur spirit from her. You know, she would come pick me up from school as a kid. As a 10-year-old, I used to beg my grandmother to pick me up once a week from my lower middle class neighborhood and drive me down to the hood so I could spend 5 hours stocking her shelves. Sometimes she let me ring up candy and milk and bread and run the register, and I got to handle money, right? That was so awesome at the time. Now, if someone would come in with a 40 ounce of Colt 45 or something, I got to move away. But it was this very exciting time when you're a kid to just see all of that commerce going around. And it just became very, very natural for me. But that was just the beginning of my entrepreneur journey. In 1989, Sonny Vaccaro forced me to really take it serious and up my game because I was 12 years old, and that's when the Air Jordans first came out. They had air pockets. They were red and black and white. They had that webbing. Everybody remembers the first Air Jordans, right? Well, they were $110. And that was the first tennis shoe to ever cost $100. Now, if you're from the lower middle class household I was from, you're going to pay less. My mom made it very clear she was only paying $20 for a pair of shoes that I was going to outgrow in 6 months. And that was the first time that it was a Chad T. Mitchell versus the world type scenario, because I immediately had a goal. And you just don't tell a red-blooded entrepreneur, no matter how young they are, the word no. I needed money, and I had the only resources I had were the 50-cent packs of baseball and football cards I had bought with Daisy Lee's $5 she paid me for stocking shelves. So that's when I started hustling baseball and football cards in middle school on the bus and in between classes, which I ended up getting my Jordans in about 2 weeks. Started clocking about $20 a day, buying my buddies extra chocolate milks and rolls at lunch. I was like a 13-year-old Nino Brown, I guess. But eventually I got shut down. Principal called my mom. She did not get impressed with my entrepreneur skills. But what she couldn't take from me was the love of the back of the baseball card. On the other side of that card were the statistics, wins and losses, yards per carry, yards per catch, strikeouts. And that magical chart had all those numbers. It's a spreadsheet. I remember sitting in middle school algebra class as a 13-year-old looking for the mistakes that Topps and Donruss might have made on those baseball cards. Staring at Nolan Ryan and Walter Payton statistics. Then the movie Rain Man came out, and then it was over. You know, I thought I was going to be a little card counter when I was 13. But anyway, you moved to a few years later, and Daisy Lee's store started losing sales, and Walmart started coming in, right? Well, she ended up not being able to make her loan payments, and eventually she just didn't have the store anymore, magically. You know, we never talked about it. And she was 65 years old. So this wild girl who abruptly migrated from a foreign land as a young mother to pursue the American dream for her family and actually clawed her way to a brick and mortar position of a business owner. Now she lost it. She's 65, has nothing else to do. She ended up dying broke on Social Security. It didn't even bother her. She was a kid of the Great Depression. But there's a few things in that were so beautiful, like the American dream, the family business. But the lack of knowledge, I used to think that the word inheritance was like a magical, oh my God, does that really exist? Because I knew I would never get one, right? Just some things, just how it happens sometimes. And that's, I think, where my passion for numbers came in, was the store, the baseball cards, the actually her losing it. And it's almost like I was just too young to do anything about it at the time. You know, it's like 12, 13, 14. But the idea of wealth had never been established in our families over the previous generations. Nobody had ever had anything to appreciate over time. So that's something that's very foreign to a lot of people. And you don't know what it is until you feel it viscerally, you know? To own a house for 10 years and then sell it for 6 figures more than what you bought it for. Like, not everybody understands that concept until they do it. And no one in my lineage ever had. So just moving forward from that, now what I'm doing is really keeping track of business owners' numbers so they can plan 20 years in the future and kind of pivot if something else happens, right? But even when the Olympics were happening this year, I was so impressed because those sprinters, they just knew their numbers. You know, I bet if you were to ask Patrick Mahomes, he knows how many interceptions he had last year. In fact, when Mahomes was asked last year, when he first won back-to-back Super Bowls, what was his first thought? And he had said, we're going to three-peat next year. Like immediately, like he had his goal, his projection, you know, and started working towards that. Liberci, that was a crap Super Bowl, by the way. The only reason that the Eagles were there is because Jerry Jones is a bad business owner and won't fire his GM. I said it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but if you can learn how to use some of the tactics with business lending, whether it's SBA loans, other kind of revenue loans, business credit, you learn how to leverage this debt out, you're going to stay ahead of the curve and really maximize your opportunities. And, you know, something happens where, you know, a big box store moves in on you, you might have to pivot a little bit, you know, but you know how to work what your expenses are. You know, we actually got a Ticket Scalper, $150K SBA loan about 2 months ago. And I haven't been able to follow up with him to see how much revenue he made. But that's a very good point of good debt and bad debt. Bad debt, going to the Super Bowl on your credit card. Good debt, buying Super Bowl tickets on your credit card and selling them for $1,000 the next day. That's what we do at Race to Revenue. how can we find the edge? You know, my favorite movie is, oh, there's not one. My favorite movies are Moneyball, The Founder, The Big Short. And if you think about Office Space, you know, that's all about them finding the arbitrage with the, if you take out a half cent a day, it adds up. And that's where we can find a lot of the nooks and crannies. You know, we're not all going to be millionaires, but if we can do the best with what we have in this country's got a better population. You know, if you grow up in a house where mom and dad's hollering all the time about bills, and it's just not a very good upbringing, right? So you don't realize that when, as a business owner, if you're struggling, that struggle compounds to all aspects of your life as well. And so what we do at the Race to Revenue part is we have a spreadsheet where I track your profit margin, so you know how much you're making, your cash on cash return. So if you have to put $10,000 in each month to make 15, and then you keep floating the money each month like a Ponzi scheme, then I don't know how long that's going to last. So we keep track of that stat. And then overall, we keep track of the business valuation. So we want you to make more money in your business. We want you to eventually have a happy ending and become a successful retired business owner, right? One day you're going to sell it, pass it down, or something. So these are all little tactics to make your business more valuable. Just simply having $100,000 in revenue. If you're out there and you're a plumber and you're self-employed, okay? If you can figure out a way to cut your expenses 5% and just raise your revenue at 5%, just 10%, that's $834 a month to you. That's a better car payment. That's a better house payment. That's a better a lot of things. You see what I mean? It's not like everybody's Elon Musk going to make $48 billion every time he does a deal. But it's pretty cool. He's in the White House cleaning house. And Elon, I know you're a big fan of total disruption, as you should be. We're glad to hear that you're cleaning house in the government. I'm handling it on the small business owner end. So we're tightening up our belts. We're trying to find our competitive edge. It's like fat camp for business owners. You know, if you were talking to your buddy and you guys were having a contest on who could bench more, and you said, "Oh, I benched 180," and he said, "No, you didn't. You benched 175." Like, it's so important to know your numbers. You do it in every other aspect of your life. Nobody loves math, I know, but you can't be a pro if you don't find the edge in this stuff. And if nothing else, it'll help you sidestep some landmines. You know, we also have it as a responsibility, I believe. You know, we're the good guys here. You know, it's not red or blue. It's the entrepreneur that makes this country so great. It's the person that innovates and creates the opportunities for the rest of the country to have that paycheck. It's us. It's our job. Up your game. And that's what we're trying to do with the Race to Revenue, with the spreadsheets, keeping our track of our things, make sure there's no waste or ways that we're passing opportunities aside. Right now, I've added an extra thing on the spreadsheet, right? The extra baseball card statistic. And Mark, the gun range owner, inspired this as well, because listening to him talk about his family and getting his wife to get involved, I thought it was very fun. But I add in a component. If you want to find out how much money you make per hour, you can if you use the success tracker for our spreadsheet. So that's pretty much it. Does anybody?
That number shocks a lot of people, Chad. That how much I make per hour. You and I have been doing that calculation a long time. I know you do it with your stuff, and I've done it with a lot of people. And there's times that you're and I do it a little bit different. And you and I have talked about this a little bit. So I break it down into the categories so I know where I should be spending time. And I'll do cost per hour of like an admin task, or cost per hour on revenue task, or cost per hour over here. And I'll break it down to those different areas. I've got a threshold. Like if it's going to fall below my minimum standard dollars per hour, somebody else is doing it. Like I'm going to leverage that out because as an entrepreneur, because that's not the highest and best use of my time. Because if I've got a task that I can make $1,000 an hour doing, and a task that I can make $20 an hour doing, somebody else needs to do the $20 an hour task, and I should spend 2 hours doing the $1,000 an hour task. So that's how I tend to play with that one. And it is so critically important to understand that number. You're right of what that is, because we look at that bottom line at the end of the year and we're like, oh, I'm okay with that. Are you really? The DIY approach is costing us. Amanda's totally right there. Yeah, I agree with that completely. So I wanted to just plus one up onto that, because so many people's entrepreneurs blow by that, how much I make per hour, because they go to the end of the year and they say, oh, I made, my company, my company's a 6-figure company. I made $400,000 this year. Well, to Chad's point, expenses, marketing, how much did you actually make? How many dollars per hour?
I actually keep track of 2 parts of that. And by the way, we're not going to start this with the contestants right now. It's a little too. It's a little early. It's a little early. Like it just is, but it gives us something to look forward to. So guys, let's just keep grinding out now. Run those 80-hour weeks for the next few, whatever, and then I keep track of how much time you've spent working in your business, and on a separate line, I keep track of how much time are you spending working on your business. And the on your business needs to be more than the in.
Yeah.
You need to spend
80-20 principle, Pareto's principle.
On your business. Yes. So that's kind of my whole spiel with this. I can't wait to get really in with the contestants here. That this is going to be a really cool thing.
So let's wrap it out with this one in the last couple of minutes. So we talked about knowing your business valuation. If you are going to, there are much more complex computations that can be done, to really truly get like an appraised value if you want to go down that road. But like from a ballpark, if you were going to give our public here's your basic calculator. Calculate this. This gives you the ballpark valuation that if somebody was going to come give you, if you were going to sell your business tomorrow, it might be worth that. Note all the disclosures and disclaimers.
Okay, great. You know what? A good rule of thumb to think of out there. If you are a small business, and this goes from obviously different industries have different metrics, but if you can take at the end your net profit after all of your expenses and multiply it somewhere between 2.5 to 3, and if you have any equity in real estate as well, put that together, that is a decent place to start. That does not mean that's your number. That just means that's a very good place to start, and it gives you some framework to gauge yourself.
Yeah, love that. So I mean the basic math. So what Chad's saying is, if you made, I'm going to use round numbers for everybody. If you had $100,000 in the bank that was net profit from your business last year, and you have multiply that, call it by 3, because that's the easy number, right? We could say 3. So we have a $300,000 valuation plus assets, which would be real estate. So say you own a building, whatever that's going to be in the equity in your building is $500,000. That means your business could today, from a starting point, I'm making Chad do the math and check my math. You're about $800,000. Somebody could come in and say your business is worth $800,000. They're not probably that far off.
Well, you could also say, I'm just selling the business for $300,000 and I'll rent this out to you for X amount and keep the real estate and the appreciation.
Keep the real estate. Yeah, see, that's
and
where
and
the
see,
financial wealth strategist comes
it
in. It's
is.
not
It
black and white.
absolutely
Love
is.
that.
Correct. And there's no right or wrong. There's no everybody's a special snowflake when it comes down to this. There's just, you can't follow anybody. You can follow but at the end of the day, you're going to make your own decision. That's about being an entrepreneur anyway. We love making the tough decisions, right?
Absolutely true. Chad, thank you so much, man. We love it.
Oh,
Love the passion.
I
about where
wanted,
you're at.
I,
How do we reach you?
I just wanted to say, guys, if you wanted the spreadsheet, go to theamericandreamgroup.org. Also, if you wanted to get the full list, the full knock list of all of the loans and strategies, 6 or 7 of them are ones I'm using for some of the contestants right now. I have a book, 101 Loan Programs to Get Through Life. And honestly, I wrote this book just in case Doc Brown and Marty McFly ever figure out how to get the DeLorean up to 88. I'm giving this to the 12-year-old me, and I'm going to say, you got your Jordans. I'm giving this to you. Figure it out. I know that you can. I'm not going to have that ability, but you guys can take it, and 20 years from now, really be like, I'm glad I got the sports almanac and used it. So that's it.
Love it, man.
Thanks,
Chad, so good. Love the passion, my friend. Looking forward to doing so many great things together.
Bye, guys. Thanks.